Hello and welcome. This is Oles Gerjuk with UATV broadcasting from Toronto, Canada. The Ukraine Reform Conference is taking place here, so our team in cooperation with Agri Team Canada is launching a special series of interviews about the current stage and effectiveness of Ukrainian reforms. Today we're discussing the tax reform in Ukraine, and joining us in the studio for that matter is Liudmyla Palamar, head of the International Taxation Division at the Ministry of Finance of Ukraine. Hello and thank you for being with us today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yes,
it's a pleasure. So before we start the conversation, let's let our audience to have some kind of preview to the introduction, as an introduction to the reform.
I will try to do it.
So, Ms. Palamar, half a year ago, the Ukrainian parliament adopted a very important international document. It is called Multilateral Instrument to Implement Tax Treaty-Related Measures. Could you please explain our audience how progressive is this document and what importance does it bear for Ukraine?
Yes, I will try to briefly describe the situation with the multilateral instrument to implement tax treaty-related measures, which abbreviation is MLI. What was the reason to implement such instrument? Probably you know that there are a lot of cases, abusive cases, when company wouldn't like to pay taxes and trying to move their capital to the low tax jurisdiction or to the jurisdiction without taxation at all, such as called offshore jurisdiction.
Yes.
That's why not only Ukraine faced with such problem, but all over the world countries and international communities decided to elaborate the BEPS action plan, base erosion and profit shifting plan, and MLI is the part of this comprehensive plan, which allow to eliminate the gaps, allows to artificially shift these profits to low or no tax jurisdiction. And the government of Ukraine, the Minister of Finance of Ukraine, because Minister of Finance is responsible for the tax policy creation, has elaborated jointly with OECD and G20 countries, elaborated this draft BEPS implementation, BEPS action plan, and Ukraine happily joined to this BEPS action plan.
So Ukraine has joined BEPS also?
Ukraine has taken commitments to implement minimum BEPS standard starting from the 1st January 2017. And during this period, the government of Ukraine was elaborating this mechanism Why it was difficult to implement? Because there are many legislative aspects dealing with Ukrainian legislation which did not allow to implement swiftly to implement such kind of international legislation. But we have the base allowed to implement this standard. We have more than 70 agreements on avoidance of double taxation. And MLI will modify all these agreements simultaneously. So we can economy time limiting and cost resources not to provide negotiations with every country, that's why MLI will give opportunity to modify all these 70 conventions.
Due to this BEPS
Due to
document.
this BEPS and due to this MLI in particular instrument.
This is great. And you also remember it's in BEPS standards. So how can this international document, right, internationally recognized, very important document, what kind of change can it bring to Ukraine so people could feel the change? What will this reflect
The
onto?
first very important provision is named as treaty anti-abuse treaty provision. In essence, it is principal purpose test which allow to detect the purpose of the transaction. For example, if the purpose of the transaction only to use the privileged tax regime envisaged by the convention, or it is in principle commercial purpose. It is normal when it is commercial, but it is not. It is abnormal when it is the usage of such privileged tax regime which envisaged by our double tax treaty, by our double tax conventions. And the second provision is dispute resolution provision. For example, if two tax authorities of two countries, for example, Ukraine and another country, there is a dispute cases, for example, incorrect application of double tax treaty, there is possibility to create and discuss these disputes between the tax authorities and come to the mutual understanding and mutual resolving of such disputes.
Sounds great. When will it come into force?
We expect we completed all the internal governmental procedures required for entry into force of this document, and we transferred all this package of documents to the OECD Secretariat, and we expect the entry into force the earliest possibility, the 1st November of 2019.
So pretty soon.
Yes, pretty soon.
Well, I also do know that it took more than a year of heated discussions with the parliamentarians and also with the administration of the president to introduce these changes into Ukraine's tax system and tax legislation. So who supported you during this kind of dialogue or battle?
Firstly, I would like to appreciate the support of the Reform Support Office team, which is working at the Ministry of Finance. The second one is my staff at the International Taxation Division. They are very professional and very dedicated people. The third one is 24/7 hours support from the OECD colleagues.
Great.
The legal staff of the President administration and legal staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And all this common labor, I think, that will make our country more prosper and
progressive.
Yes, progress.
Yes, looks like you have a really great and really motivated team to bring a change to Ukraine, and this is exciting. Thank you so much for this information that you shared with us today.
Thank you, Yaroslav.
That was Liudmyla Palamar, head of the International Taxation Division at the Ministry of Finance of Ukraine. I'm Oles Gerjuk. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned as UATV continues covering the current stage of Ukrainian reforms and the framework of the conference in Toronto.